What most people interpret as mere change of luck is, in truth, the divine signal that a karmic cycle of immemorial proportions is reaching its predestined end. But how many recognize this liberation when it approaches silently, like dawn, that dissolves darkness without dramatic announcements or celestial fanfares? Paramahansa Yogananda taught his most dedicated disciples that karma is the temporary school of the soul, not the eternal prison of the spirit, revealing that each repetitive pattern of suffering carries within itself the seeds of its own dissolution, awaiting only the moment when consciousness matures sufficiently to extract the essential lesson that justified every painful experience. What you are about to discover transcends philosophical theories about the law of cause and effect to enter the sacred territory of practical and observable signs that indicate when your soul has finally completely absorbed the teachings that kept certain patterns active in your life. Precise indicators that, once recognized and understood in their mystical depth, transform your perspective on suffering from inexplicable curse to disguised blessing that fulfilled its educational purpose and now withdraws from the backstage of your renewed existence, leaving space for the flourishing of divine potentials that awaited this moment of liberation to manifest in all their original glory. But are you prepared to recognize these signs when they begin to reveal themselves in your own journey? Or will you continue interpreting as casual coincidences what represents tangible evidence of your accelerated spiritual evolution? The first and perhaps most revealing sign that an ancestral karma is dissolving in the purifying waters of awakened consciousness manifests through the radical transformation of your emotional response to situations, people, or circumstances that previously triggered automatic and uncontrollable inner storms. When you discover, with initial surprise that soon transforms into profound gratitude, that the person who for years could irritate you merely with their presence now evokes only compassionate serenity, or when events that traditionally generated paralyzing anxiety are received with transcendent acceptance that springs spontaneously from deeper dimensions of your being. This is not apathetic indifference nor defeatist resignation that many confuse with spiritual maturity, but the organic awakening of a wisdom that understands the hidden educational purpose behind every challenging experience, transforming unconscious reaction into conscious response that emerges not from the effort of personality, but from the illuminated nature of the soul that finally recognized the lesson and can dispense with it. How can we explain this extraordinary phenomenon that defies the apparent laws of common human psychology? Imagine a child who initially screams, kicks, and struggles violently when needing to take bitter-tasting medicine, but who, through repeated experiences and loving guidance from parents, gradually understands that this unpleasant medicine is necessary for healing and well-being. Eventually, she accepts the medicine without drama or resistance because she developed discernment to see beyond the immediate uncomfortable experience to the greater benefit that justifies the temporary sacrifice. Thus it happens with the mature soul that developed spiritual vision to recognize in former irritations, provocations, and challenges the last vestiges of lessons already completely assimilated at subconscious levels of consciousness. The emotional drama ceases not because you became insensitive or hardened by difficult experiences, but because you developed transcendent discernment to see through the deceptive appearances of the surface to the divine educational core of each situation that life presents. Yogananda used to relate the transformative story of a disciple who for decades automatically became furious whenever he was unjustly criticized by superiors at work, envious colleagues, or even family members who did not understand his spiritual quest. This repetitive pattern of emotional explosion followed by guilt and regret seemed unbreakable until one day, after years of meditative practice and disciplined self-observation, he received the most severe and unjust criticism of his entire professional life and simply smiled with genuine compassion for the critic. Feeling in his heart not anger nor desire for revenge, but profound understanding that the other's aggression revealed unresolved inner pain, insecurity disguised as authority, or fear projected as attack. In that moment of sudden revelation, he knew with unquestionable certainty that he had completely transcended a karmic pattern that had imprisoned him for decades. For his response arose not from calculated mental effort nor learned psychological technique, but from spontaneous and natural understanding that true strength resides in imperturbable serenity before all external storms. The sacred practice for cultivating and recognizing this first indicator requires loving but implacable observation of your habitual reactions to the daily challenges of terrestrial existence. For an entire week, without exception or excuses, carefully note 3 daily situations that traditionally awakened disturbing emotions like irritation, anxiety, fear, or resentment, and observe with the scientific curiosity of a spiritual researcher whether your response maintains the same explosive intensity as before, or if a new serenity is emerging naturally from the depths of your being without your needing to force it through mental control techniques. When transcendent understanding replaces emotional reactivity without conscious effort or inner struggle, you are witnessing firsthand karmic dissolution in living action within your own transformed consciousness. Affirmed daily with growing conviction born from direct experience, I respond to life with growing wisdom that emerges naturally from my awakened soul. Each challenge teaches me precious lessons, but no longer disturbs or unbalances my inner peace. I am eternally free to choose transcendent serenity in all circumstances that existence may present. The second unmistakable and scientifically observable sign that a karmic cycle is definitively ending in your life manifests through the exponential emergence of positive synchronicities that begin flowing in your daily existence like rushing rivers that finally found their natural path toward the infinite ocean of divine grace. When doors open mysteriously without your needing to force them with desperate effort, when right people appear at the exact moment with information, opportunities, or support you needed, when creative solutions emerge spontaneously for problems that seemed absolutely unsolvable through conventional methods of limited human logic. These are not casual coincidences, nor products of superficial positive thinking that many modern teachings falsely promise, but tangible and measurable evidence that your inner vibration has aligned harmoniously with higher currents of divine destiny, because you consciously released deep energetic resistances that block the natural flow of celestial providence through your ordinary terrestrial experience, transformed into sacred field of divine manifestation. The universe operates according to precise and immutable laws of energetic attraction and repulsion that function with greater precision than any computer created by human science. When we carry unresolved karmic burdens in subconscious layers of the psyche, our vibration automatically emits frequencies of resistance, conflict, and disharmony that inexorably magnetize challenging circumstances, complicated relationships, and obstacles necessary to force our spiritual education through direct confrontation with our untranscended limitations. But when the essential lesson is finally learned at cellular depth and the energetic burden is consciously released through genuine forgiveness, transcendent acceptance, or illuminated understanding, our vibrational frequency automatically purifies, like a musical instrument that recovers its original tuning, naturally beginning to attract harmonious experiences that reflect this new inner attunement with superior laws of cosmic existence. It is like cleaning a precious tuning fork that was covered with dirt and rust accumulated during decades of neglect. Initially, it produces discordant sounds and disrupts the harmony of the entire orchestra, but once restored to its original purity, it returns to vibrating in its crystalline note and begins resonating magnetically with other equally tuned instruments, creating celestial symphonies instead of deafening cacophony. Thus, A woman who heroically struggled for 15 years against apparently unsolvable financial difficulties discovered that precisely 3 weeks after managing to deeply and completely forgive the ex-husband who had betrayed and abandoned her with 3 small children, she began receiving unexpected job offers in her specialty area, attractive partnership proposals in prosperous businesses, and even unexpected inheritance from a distant relative she didn't even know existed. She didn't change her technical qualifications nor take additional courses, but released a gigantic energetic blockage that allowed the universe to conspire in her favor in ways that previously seemed to belong to the realm of possible fantasy. To unequivocally recognize this second indicator in your own life experience, maintain with monastic discipline a detailed diary of synchronicities for 30 complete days, meticulously recording each significant coincidence, unexpected encounter that resulted in mutual benefit, opportunity that arose without active seeking on your part, creative solution that appeared exactly when you released mental control and surrendered to the superior wisdom of the universe. If the frequency of these events increases dramatically compared to previous periods of your life, you will be observing tangible scientific evidence of karmic release operating in practical dimensions of material reality. Declare daily with growing gratitude, born from experimental confirmation. The infinite universe constantly conspires in my favor because I learn to align harmoniously with its perfect wisdom. Blessed synchronicities flow naturally in my life as confirmation that I walk in the correct direction of my divine destiny. I am a magnetic magnet for experiences that nourish my spiritual evolution and serve the greater good of all beings. The third sacred indicator of karmic dissolution reveals itself through the radical transformation or organic and peaceful dissolution of relationships that maintained repetitive patterns of destructive conflict, unhealthy emotional dependence, or constant energetic drainage that seem to have no end or possible solution. When you perceive with initial surprise, followed by profound relief, that certain people simply naturally withdraw from your life without explosive drama, painful confrontations, or need for forced ruptures, or that ancient toxic dynamics are mysteriously replaced by more mature, balanced, and mutually beneficial interactions. This extraordinary change does not happen through conscious manipulation, calculated psychological strategies, or dramatic breakups that leave emotional scars, but as an organic and inevitable result of your vibrational elevation that naturally repels energies incompatible with your new state of consciousness and simultaneously attracts human connections more aligned with your purified frequency and your spiritual values in constant refinement. How does this mysterious but scientific law of relationships as energetic mirrors of interior consciousness work? All human relationships fundamentally function as multifaceted mirrors that reflect with mathematical precision our unresolved internal patterns, unhealed wounds, subconscious fears, and specific emotional needs that seek resolution through interpersonal experience. While we carry particular psychic baggage, we automatically magnetize people who activate precisely these vulnerable areas so we can heal them through the living laboratory of conscious human relations. But when interior healing is genuinely completed through profound spiritual work, holistic therapy, or spontaneous awakening of wisdom, relationships based exclusively on these old patterns lose their karmic reason to exist and begin dissolving naturally, like ice that automatically melts when ambient temperature rises beyond its sustaining point. It is not cruel abandonment nor personal rejection, but natural completion of an educational process that magnificently fulfilled its transformative function in the divine economy of consciousness evolution. A young woman who for 2 entire decades consistently attracted romantically unavailable partners, men committed to other people, or those incapable of mature, effective reciprocity, discovered through years of spiritual therapy focused on healing paternal abandonment wounds that, as soon as she completed the process of deep forgiveness toward her absent father and developed authentic self-love, that did not depend on external masculine validation, these problematic men simply lost interest in her simultaneously and mysteriously. Initially, she felt and interpreted it as confirmation of her supposed lack of personal worth, but soon realized with growing joy that she had definitively broken an ancestral magnetic pattern that kept her imprisoned in unsatisfying relationships, opening clean, energetic space to finally attract someone truly capable of mature emotional reciprocity, genuine commitment, and unconditional love based on mutual recognition, instead of neurotic need to fill interior voids. The scientific observation of this third indicator requires honest and courageous mapping of your most challenging relationships during the last 24 months. Identify 3 people who traditionally created recurring drama, exhausting conflicts, or emotional tensions in your family, professional, or social life, and objectively observe whether these dynamics transformed positively, whether relationships dissolved peacefully without unnecessary trauma, or whether you developed natural emotional immunity to behaviors that previously affected you profoundly. Significant changes in this specific area indicate liberation from relational karmic contracts that kept all involved trapped in educational cycles that finally reached their predestined term. Affirm daily with growing spiritual discernment. I naturally attract relationships that honor and accelerate my constant spiritual evolution. I release with unconditional love and profound gratitude all those who no longer resonate harmoniously with my purified frequency. I am eternally worthy of human connections that nourish my spiritual growth and contribute to the collective well-being of all involved. The fourth majestic sign of karmic dissolution manifests through the spontaneous and inexplicable emergence of latent abilities, passionate interests, or completely new life directions that remained dormant in the depths of your soul while your consciousness was totally absorbed resolving specific lessons and processing repetitive patterns of educational cycles. When ancient passions resurge with renewed intensity and clear purpose, when completely unexplored talents begin revealing themselves naturally through irresistible creative impulses, or when an unmistakable sensation of divine mission gradually replaces the old sensation of merely reacting to external circumstances without direction or transcendent meaning. This is not impulsive change motivated by emotional escapism, nor irresponsible flight from daily reality that characterizes superficial midlife crises, but organic and inevitable flowering of authentic divine potentials that were patiently awaiting the release of psychic energy that previously was consumed almost entirely by a repetitive karmic pattern. Unresolved internal conflicts and subconscious resistances that blocked access to the deepest creative dimensions of individual consciousness connected to the infinite cosmic source. How can we understand this extraordinary phenomenon that transforms apparently ordinary lives into radiant expressions of individualized divine purpose? Imagine a sacred garden where certain rare seeds remain patiently buried throughout an entire rigorous and seemingly endless winter, awaiting in latent state the climatic and energetic conditions propitious for germinating and flourishing in all their original beauty when finally the adverse season ends and the soil warms with direct sunlight. These special seeds sprout spontaneously without the gardener needing to artificially force their growth through external methods, for they carry within themselves all genetic programming necessary to become magnificent trees that will produce unique fruits for nourishment and delight of many futures. Similarly, individual divine talents and transcendent purposes remain in conscious hibernation while our attention is necessarily occupied processing dense karmic lessons, healing ancestral wounds, or resolving complex relational conflicts, but emerge naturally and flourish abundantly when we complete these fundamental learnings and release creative energy for conscious construction instead of compulsive reaction to external challenges. The transformative story of a man who worked disciplinedly for 15 years in a corporate job he secretly detested only to adequately support his wife and 3 small children, perfectly illustrates this cosmic principle in practical action. After resolving profound self-esteem issues through years of daily meditation, therapeutic work focused on healing paternal rejection wounds, and primarily developing genuine trust in divine providence that cares for all needs when we authentically follow our sacred vocation, he spontaneously began creating wood sculptures during free weekends, discovering extraordinary artistic talent he completely unknown he possessed, and which rapidly developed into a prosperous career that financially supports his family with abundance superior to his previous job. Besides providing profound satisfaction and sense of significant contribution to world beauty through sacred art. As if a gigantic interior door had suddenly opened to permit expression of creativity that patiently awaited the divinely right moment to flourish without internal obstacles or paralyzing fears. To unequivocally identify this fourth indicator in your own spiritual awakening journey, cultivate meditative attention to activities that awaken genuine and natural enthusiasm without need for forced mental effort. Creative projects that spontaneously capture your imagination and energy, or unmistakable sensations of, "For this I was truly born," that emerge during certain specific acts. Courageously remain open to exploring these inclinations without premature judgment based on limited practical considerations or discouraging external opinions, for they may represent authentic divine callings that finally found clean space and available energy to fully express themselves in your terrestrial life as unique contribution to humanity's collective evolution. Declare daily with growing openness born from trust in divine wisdom. My unique divine talents naturally awaken at the cosmically perfect time determined by superior wisdom. I follow with unshakable confidence the authentic callings of my awakened soul, knowing that serving my true vocation is simultaneously serving the greater good of the entire universe. I joyfully express in the world the unique and precious gifts I carry as individual contribution to the cosmic symphony of conscious creation. The fifth and most sublime indicator of complete karmic dissolution reveals itself through the mysterious emergence of an unshakable inner peace that depends absolutely not on favorable external circumstances, specific material achievements, or social approval to manifest in all its transcendent depth. When you discover with growing astonishment a serenity that persists in balance even amid temporary challenges, family emotional storms, or unexpected financial crises, a joy without apparent cause that springs spontaneously from the heart like an inexhaustible natural source, an unmistakable sensation of being eternally at home with yourself regardless of external environment, people present, or material circumstances that life constantly presents. This transcendental peace is not the result of external conquests, accumulation of material goods, professional recognition, or social approval that personality compulsively seeks, but mature fruit of profound subconscious recognition that an educational cycle has been completely assimilated, and your soul can finally rest in unshakable confidence that it magnificently fulfilled the necessary learning for this specific phase of its eternal evolution. But how can we explain this extraordinary state that seems to defy all known laws of common human psychology and completely transcend the apparent limitations of ordinary terrestrial condition? When we carry active karmic burdens in subconscious layers of the psyche, there always exists a subtle background restlessness in consciousness, like distant and persistent sound of heavy machinery working incessantly that keeps the nervous system subtly activated and alert, even during moments of apparent relaxation, scheduled vacations, or supposedly pleasurable activities that should provide complete rest, but always leave residual sensation of unresolved tension. But when specific karma dissolves completely through profound understanding, transcendent acceptance, or genuine forgiveness that reaches causal roots of repetitive patterns, this background tension automatically ceases like an engine that finally stops functioning, allowing emergence of a majestic interior silence that cannot be disturbed by external noises, family discussions, temporary financial problems, or any turbulence that material life presents. Sacred quietude that lovingly sustains and embraces all movements of daily existence without being affected by them, like infinite sky that remains imperturbable while passing clouds continuously form and dissolve in its timeless vastness. Yogananda poetically described a transcendent state he called causeless joy, genuine happiness that needs no external justification, positive events, or social confirmation to manifest because it emanates directly from the essential nature itself of the soul liberated from limiting conditionings, like natural perfume of rose that arises not through calculated effort or artificial technique, but as spontaneous and inevitable expression of its purified essence that finally can reveal itself without internal obstacles or subconscious resistances. This divine joy can coexist harmoniously with practical challenges of material life, temporary relational difficulties, or even significant losses because it depends absolutely not on external circumstances for its existence, but springs from the refined quality of consciousness that observes and serenely traverses all experiences with growing equanimity based on direct understanding of the impermanent nature of all phenomena and eternal permanence of the spiritual essence that observes all changes without being touched by them. The scientific verification of this fifth indicator requires attentive and honest observation of your base emotional quality during neutral periods of daily life. When you are not particularly busy with important projects nor facing specific urgent problems, what emotional state emerges naturally without conscious effort on your part? If you discover growing tendency toward serenity without apparent motive, spontaneous gratitude for simple blessings like breathing, food, or roof over your head, or inexplicable sensation of being profoundly blessed even when external circumstances do not seem particularly favorable compared to common social standards, you are experiencing direct and unquestionable evidence of karmic liberation operating in deeper dimensions of consciousness that completely transcend temporal personality and its apparent needs. Consciously cultivate this sacred peace, declaring daily with growing reverence, "The infinite peace of God naturally flourishes in my purified consciousness as spontaneous expression of my essential divine nature. I am eternally blessed regardless of any external circumstances because I discovered the inexhaustible source of happiness that permanently resides in the most intimate sanctuary of my awakened being. My joy continuously springs from the eternal source that I am in essence, connecting me harmoniously with cosmic joy that permeates the entire universe." While these sacred revelations echo through the deepest corridors of your awakened soul, penetrating successive layers of understanding like concentric waves that expand infinitely through crystalline lake touched by precious stone. Recognize with reverent humility that identifying these indicators does not represent the end of the spiritual journey nor arrival at final destination, but natural graduation to higher and more refined levels of conscious service to the divine plan that constantly unfolds through each individual soul connected to cosmic totality. For when we definitively liberate ourselves from patterns that kept us imprisoned in repetitive cycles of personal learning focused exclusively on resolving individual questions, our vital energy spontaneously becomes available for more direct and effective collaboration with humanity's collective elevation through natural irradiation of peace, transcendent wisdom, and unconditional love that seeks neither rewards nor external recognition. The end of individual karma is simultaneously the beginning of universal dharma, living no longer in compulsive reaction to past conditionings inherited from previous experiences, but in conscious and deliberate creation of a more luminous future for all beings who share this sacred terrestrial experience as collective opportunity for accelerated spiritual evolution. May these words charged with transformative energy find fertile and receptive soil in the carefully cultivated garden of your expanded consciousness and rapidly germinate into profound and unquestionable recognition of your own liberation in progressive course. For each individual soul that genuinely awakens to its free and eternal nature automatically and inevitably contributes to the collective awakening of entire humanity as unique spiritual organisms seeking conscious return to the common divine source. And perhaps you are being called in this crucial historical moment not only to celebrate your own personal liberation with private gratitude, but to become a radiant beacon of practical hope and concrete inspiration for other courageous travelers, still navigating with determination through the turbulent waters of their own karmic dissolution processes, offering through your living example tangible evidence that total liberation is not only possible, but inevitable for every consciousness sincerely dedicated to constant spiritual growth. If these revelations touched deep chords of recognition in your heart, like celestial music that awakens dormant memories of your true divine nature, honor this sacred resonance by leaving your luminous mark of confirmation through conscious light, so that other sincere seekers may find precisely this message at the cosmically exact moment of their deepest need. For in the spiritual universe orderly governed by laws of love and wisdom, absolutely nothing is casual coincidence, and your conscious energetic interaction with this content may be exactly the magnetic link that connects these eternal truths to someone patiently awaiting these specific words to finally understand that their own liberation is also rapidly approaching through the golden horizon of their accelerated evolution. Subscribe to this sacred channel dedicated exclusively to transmitting authentic teachings, to continue receiving tested practices and confirmed revelations that progressively illuminate the deepest mysteries of conscious evolution, and generously share this transformative light with those whom your awakened heart intuitively recognizes ready to awaken. For spiritual wisdom consciously multiplied becomes exponential blessing for the entire evolutionary community that organically forms around sincere and disciplined quest for eternal truth that definitively liberates every soul from temporary illusions. Write, "I am free," or in the comments as public energetic declaration of your courageous willingness to completely embrace the liberation that is already visibly flourishing in your transformed life, and generously share your own personal experience of recognizing these signs to inspire and encourage others who may be experiencing similar transformations without completely understanding their profound spiritual significance, or without recognizing the sacred magnitude of the evolution that silently unfolds through their individual consciousness connected to the cosmos. May the eternal and incorruptible light that dissolves all unnecessary karma, like rising sun that evaporates morning mists, continue radiating incessantly through your consciousness, purified and refined by the sacred fire of conscious experience. May each new dawn bring growing and unmistakable confirmations of your spiritual freedom conquered through heroic journeys through the shadowy valleys of illusion to the luminous peaks of transcendent understanding. And may you walk through coming years not as one who heavily carries ancestral burdens of the past or fears uncertainties of the future, but as completely liberated being who gracefully dances in the divine melody of conscious existence, knowing with unshakable certainty born from direct experience that each step is sovereign choice and soul. Each breath is undeserved but abundantly granted blessing, and each present moment is fresh and unexplored opportunity to more fully express the radiant divinity that has always been your true nature and inevitable destiny, since before the first breath of this temporary incarnation. For in the sacred economy of the infinitely compassionate universe, no tear is wasted, no pain is without purpose, no lesson is unnecessarily repeated. And when we finally understand this liberating truth that transcends all merely intellectual comprehension, We discover that we have always been students in a cosmic university where each experience, however painful it seemed on the surface, carried in its core precious seeds of wisdom that, once germinated in the fertile earth of receptive consciousness, eternally flourish as gardens of inner peace that no external storm can devastate nor any time can wither. For they are planted and watered by the invisible but ever-present hand of divine providence that guides each soul through apparently tortuous but perfectly planned paths toward the eternal home of conscious union with the infinite source of all love, all wisdom, all happiness that we will never again seek outside ourselves, because we finally discovered it always resided in the most intimate sanctuary of our own heart, awakened to its inalienable divine heritage,